want to be recorded.
Cool. Well, thank you all. So does any of you guys play music? I know Kristen plays piano. Does anybody else play any instruments?
I have
Or like
zero
at least
musical bones.
Nothing at all.
Choir, but
not even
Guitar?
not even like high school band or guitar. That's awesome.
Flutophone
Or
in the
like
3rd grade.
the
I guess
recorder.
you guys are not going to be part of the Defensibilities, our company band.
Not me.
Yeah.
I
That's
played
true.
violin in high school.
Nobody was forced to take piano lessons when they were like 10.
I was kind of forced to play violin.
That's cool. Violin's an awesome instrument. So, yeah, I mean, I really love, just like I love photography and film, I really love music. It's like something I do in my free time. It's my biggest hobby. And I think of it as like another language, right? It's almost like a sign language where like you can learn the sounds and they translate to different instruments. So the biggest misconception I think about music is that every instrument is different. They're really all speaking the same language, just in a different way. So like the notes are laid out differently. And there's a thing called timbre, where the instrument plays those notes in a different tone and a different voice. And so like the clearest instrument, which is why most people start with piano, is that the piano lays out the keys, as you can see, just straight up in front of you. I actually have one right here. And this is a smaller version of a piano. I know you guys all seen a piano. I'll have to turn off the. So anyways, this is the clearest way that anybody's ever figured out to lay out like the musical scale. But those notes also translate to every other instrument. Guitar is another more clear one, but then you get to like drums, right? People think that you're just hitting something, but actually you're playing notes. They're coming out in a different way. And that depends on the tightness of the drum head and the size of the drum and how deep it is. So music is just like, it's just such a cool thing. And everybody, I mean, a lot of people in the world speak it. And that's why a lot of people love it and a lot of people enjoy listening to it. And so I wanted to just kind of start off with like that kind of, let me share this real quick. So here's a good chart just to kind of show you. So that top part right there is the piano scale that you'd see on a regular piano. And then as you look down the right and all the instruments that are being listed, it shows you all the notes that instrument is able to play from the piano. So you can kind of see like this, there's like a giant, so the human voice and the guitar at the bottom are almost pretty similar in terms of like the scale of the notes they can hit. And then you can go like the bass guitar is obviously way more left towards the bass notes. And we measure this in hertz is a measurement of like the wavelength. And that's at the very top. So you can see like the lower the hertz, the lower the sound, the less you can hear it as you get much lower. And then the higher you get, like the dog whistle that everyone knows is always on all the way on the right and like an absurd amount of hertz. So that just shows you like the sine wave and how those work. And so what I like to think of, sorry, what? No, any questions, just tell me.
Is the piano basically like all encompassing in terms of like the spectrum?
Right. Yeah, totally. So the piano, as you can see, it's in this, it's, you know, probably 2/3 down. That hits every single note. And that's just because no one's figured out like a better way to lay out the musical scale than a piano. With that warm tone and, you know, it's just like almost the perfect instrument, in my mind at least. So that's why most people learn the piano first, because it's like, you know, learning English, if you were to learn a language, and most people in the world speak English. And so it's easy to like travel, it's easy to, you know, buy things, order food in different countries. A lot of people at least understand English. And then from English, you can kind of branch out into different instruments or different languages. Guitar usually next. But if you learn guitar, most people, you know, like can play the bass guitar because it's a one note version of the guitar, even though I think bass is like its own world. It's pretty cool. And then if you have like some type of rhythm, which is another part of music, you can start playing drums. And then obviously keeps getting crazier with the weirder instruments. Like, I don't know who plays the French horn, but it's a pretty crazy instrument if you guys ever seen one. But so I started playing piano. I was like 10 or 11. I was forced to take lessons from my parents, which I was happy about now, but really hated then. And I couldn't be happier that I'm at a point where I by no means like think I'm an expert in music, but I understand the structure. And I got to a point where I can just listen to a song and almost play by ear, where I can pick it out, learn the chords, you know, in 10 seconds and then play it back and everybody can sing to it. That's kind of like the point I'm at, which is super fun. But some people can read music. like just straight up play it, which I've never been able to. And a lot of people play by ear. A good example is like Chris Martin from Coldplay can't read any music, but he can sit down and hear a song on the radio and translate it to his, piano in 5 or 10 seconds and play it for you. So that's just like a different way of playing. It's more of an emotional way. The reading's more of a
Wait.
logical way to play.
Eric, sorry. That is
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
That he
How
can't read
is it
music.
really-
Can you
Yeah.
my mind is blown.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, yeah, like I said, there's just people play music differently to kind of match their perception of it. And then there's this really cool thing called perfect pitch. You guys know Charlie Puth is?
Oh, he's the attention guy.
So a good way to explain what his gift is, not a lot of people have this, but he can hear, the way he hears notes is the way that we all see colors. So you look at, your desk and it's like brown, right? He can, and it's brown and everybody around you knows it's brown. So there's no question. He can hear a note played on the piano and tell you exactly what note that is just because he sees it in his mind. He doesn't have to listen, look at the piano, figure it out. He can just know that it's that note because it's just the way his brain works.
Wait, is
So
this
there's
the
like,
who sang Attention, that guy?
yeah. He's a really amazing musician. He just
That's-
makes all his money from pop music. But like, yeah, he can just transpose music in like a second, know exactly what chords or what notes go to which chords. Like, he's crazy. And that's just like the way his mind works. And it's not really, he studied that. That's just the way he was born. And not a lot of people have that gift. It's just like a really cool thing. So anyways, so then what's cool about electronic music is somebody took all these instruments. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Somebody took all these instruments and they put it into a computer. So when people think of like an EDM producer or a DJ, they usually think of some guy up on stage, like turning knobs, and a lot of the times they don't really know what they're doing. But what's crazy is that somebody took like a piano, a guitar, a bass, an orchestra. I have an orchestra in my computer, a bass or a brass section of an orchestra. I have like synthesizers, which is computers that legitimately just create sine waves and cosine waves and morph like thousands of them together to make a cool sound. I have drum kits. I have like weird stuff from Australia, like what are they called? Didgeridoos? The big thing?
Oh, the
Yeah.
didgeridoos? Yeah.
So what's cool about the computer, and this is why I think like tech and music is such a cool intersection, is somebody like was able to take all of these instruments and digitize them and just compact them into a computer so that I can sit here and play it off my keyboard. And that's why like producing is so cool, because you can sit in your bedroom and pretty much have access to you can download plugins for a vintage 1965 Fender, or Gibson Les Paul guitar, like a specific sound that somebody went into a studio, recorded each note of the guitar, and then I can come in here, plug it into my piano, and play what's called MIDI notes and play the notes off that guitar, and I don't have to buy a $20,000 guitar. So that's why I think, electronic producing is so interesting, is that you really have the capability to do whatever you'd like in your bedroom with like a couple $100. So
Eric, I have a quick question. How does like IP work for, let's say like the guy that recorded the notes on his $20,000 guitar? Does he then, if you use it, is it all completely open source, or is there any kind of compensation that he gets for having done that?
That's a really good question. So that really depends on like who's doing the work, but essentially they have companies that produce these what's called plugins. So what you're looking at right now, and that's what I was gonna jump into too. What you're looking at right now is called a DAW, D-A-W, Digital Audio Workstation. This is probably the most popular. You guys can all see this, right?
Yeah.
This is probably the most popular one out there. It's called Ableton, and most producers use this. A lot of people in film, music industry, like sound effects, like most people use this one. There's another one called Logic that Apple makes that's really popular. Those are probably the two biggest. And then there's like obscure ones that, Zed uses this one called Cubase, which is like crazy hard to learn, but once you learn it, you can do a crazy amount of things. So there's a bunch of these programs, but back to your question, what they do is they go and record, that specific guitar, map it out into what's called a plugin. And then that's all third-party things that all of these types of software can use. So they would make money by selling their plugin online, which I've spent hundreds of dollars on plugins. And then they would keep those royalties. So they're not making money off of your music. it's more royalty free, but they make money off of that one-time purchase that you bought that
Got it.
plugin.
Okay. Interesting.
But when it comes to vocals, on the other hand, you know, some people, some singer-songwriters will sing for you, but then they want 33% of your royalties. You know, they'll take a third. And so whatever money you make off of radio play or Spotify or iTunes or any of that, they'll get that tracked and they'll get that money, which is something I've been learning about because we have songs out now. So it's like it's honestly the slowest and the dumbest industry, like in terms of tech. Like I feel like somebody could come in and just totally disrupt it. It's a really difficult process to get a song out there and track. There's a thing called the black box where I think there's $3 billion of uncollected royalties in the world of music that no one knows how to get to, or like the artist just never connected the right numbers and never got the money from that radio station in Toronto. It's like, it's a pretty weird industry in terms of like the back end. But so anyways, I guess I can just start. Hold on, I gotta take my headphones off.
Figured out a way how to share my music or share this audio.
Oh, there's a new Zoom feature, I think, that does that. You can
hear
like
me?
share your,
Yeah, I just have to hit share computer sound.
yeah.
Then this has to be. Tell me if this is like coming out of your speakers like loud and clear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So I guess a little update for you guys. I have like 3 songs out and I have a 4th one coming out in a week. And then I am trying to put out an EP, which is called extended play. So there's LP, which is limited play, which is about 3 songs. EP is about 5 songs, and then an album, like 7 or more. So I'm trying to put out like a 5-song EP in the next like 2 months. This is the first song that I created for it. But I thought this would be a good example to kind of show you guys just a project and how it's all structured. And this is just like how I do things. There's obviously like a lot of other techniques. There's a lot of other people that do it differently. Just quitting this. And so, let's see. Song construction is a big part of music, obviously. You need the idea and the inspiration. I'm just going to kind of run through like how I do things. So you need idea and inspiration. So I'll be at home. I'll hear a song in my head. Have you guys ever done that where you just like, you know, jump out of the shower and you just have like a melody in your head that you've never heard before? Or are you singing like ones that you've heard before? I'll sometimes jump out and like literally have a string of words that kind of match to a beat or just a melody, like the top line, like let's say a drop in my head or something. And I'll like try to run in my computer. And that's the hardest part about music is trying to translate it from your head into, you know, like the keyboard and find the right sound and not waste enough time to like figure out how that plugin is going to match that sound. And so it starts with the idea inspiration, and that could either be like a singer-songwriter that sends you what's called a demo. And that's just them singing on top, you know, maybe just a cappella, or then just, you know, a girl with a piano just playing like a song she just wrote. And then your job as a producer is to take that and create a track and a background track for her voice, but also like the drop and everything in the song and the structure, more or less. Demos are usually about 30 seconds to a minute. And these are tossed around everywhere. Like I keep using Zed as an example, but he'll probably get like, you know, 50 to 100 curated demos a week for him to just listen to and be like, oh, I like this one. So that's the best part about becoming a big DJ is that you have all the work at your disposal. And so like the song like The Middle that you guys all know, like the one with the voice, the old girl's voice. That one I think was over 1.5 years, and this girl wrote it, and then she passed it to these producers, and they produced like a beat, and then it finally made its way to Zed, and he probably put like, I don't know, a week worth of work into it, but he got all the credit because he's the biggest name. He promises the giant distribution, which obviously happens, and then everybody else gets paid out, you know, in terms of like equity and stuff like that. So when you're big, you have people just sending you the best stuff. When you're not, you have to create it all, which is the super fun part too.
Eric, I have a question. So is it like if you're, you know, obviously if your Zed status, you're getting all these demos, but if you're, you know, kind of a small scale or you're just starting out, do you seek out people then, or do you come up with a song and then come up with people who could sing for it?
Yeah. So another cool like intersection of tech and music is I keep using this website called Sound Better, and Spotify actually just acquired them, but essentially it's a marketplace for producers and singer-songwriters. So make a weird, cool beat that I think has potential, and I'll post it on there for free. And I'll get like a bunch of these cool singer-songwriters submitting just ideas to me. And then I'll create a relationship through that website. And this is usually like when I have a beat and I know it's good and I just want a good singer. And sometimes I already have lyrics, sometimes I don't, and I need their help. Or, I'll find people on Instagram, like through your social accounts is like a really cool way. You can find these super low key, bedroom pop producers, or like, they're just sitting in their room singing amazing songs, but this, girl has an amazing voice. So I just, she has like 1,000 followers. So then you message her and you're like, hey, what do you think of this instrumental? Like, do you have any good ideas for it? And then she sends back a demo, and then all of a sudden you have a song. So it's more or less just random. Or you can do everything yourself. If you really want to sing everything, you can just produce the music, do the vocals, and then you're done. So I think I answered your question, maybe not.
Oh yeah, that's good.
So anyways, yeah, it's really random how songs always happen, I guess, is the main point. So sometimes the reverse works better for me, where I'll have like a singer send me like just an acapella idea of what they want. And then I found actually after the last couple songs that it's easier to produce to the music or to the singing, to the acapella, to the vocals, than it is to make a beat and try to picture what this person will do with it. So I just feel like there's a lot less possibilities of the voice matching the beat than the beat matching the voice.
When you do this with the singer-songwriter, is it all low key and like not official in terms of like, do you like sign a contract, or like who gets what, thinking that like if it goes big, then what happens?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's cool about not, having to deal with all that stuff in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's like both of you just love making music. So you're like, let's just split it 50-50. We'll figure it out later. Like we're both putting enough effort in. It's more of like a feel thing, but most of the time, like if I'm producing with the song, like a singer-songwriter, I'll put in a lot of work. So sometimes I'll take, 66% and then leave, and then they'll have 33, and they're usually super fine with that because they don't put in as much time and they're working on other songs too. So usually just up front, I'll be like, hey, let's do this 50-50, or, 2/3, 1/3, or I have a song, that one I have on there on that just got signed on Spotify. I have another producer with me on it. And so it's a third, because like our singer was so cool. She wrote all the lyrics. I helped with a little bit of them, but she was like there to record. Like she was just so into it.
Mm-hmm.
She's like a pretty big deal on Spotify too. So it helped with our distribution. So we just kind of like took all that into account and said, let's just split it all evenly and be over with it. But when you have like a contract, it gets really messy. You have agents or managers like negotiating terms and trying to steal more, royalties. And then the royalties break up into like the music royalties. So it's called the master track. And that's just the music, and you make money from that because that can be sold to movies and TV shows. You can make money from just the vocals and like the song lyrics because they can take those and buy them and put them on something else. And then you have the composition royalties. So there's like 3 different layers of royalties. It's crazy. Like I'm still trying to understand it. But there's a lot of money to be made. You just have to know how to connect the dots and like set it up so it's like a machine for you to make money, to like come in. And then you get on TV shows, and movies usually play the most, and then radio and Spotify. And and I've done a little bit of math, and I think 1,000 Spotify plays nowadays makes you like $5 or $10 or no, a couple bucks, like $2 or $3. So if you have 1 billion plays on a song, you'd probably be making like a couple 100,000 from that, which is crazy, right? Like if you have a couple of those big songs, like you'd be making just from Spotify. But the more people that put music up on Spotify, the less you get paid, which is what happened to YouTube, and why all the creators in that community are like upset because they're not getting paid as much. So anyways,
because there's more music now.
Yeah, there's more music, and when there's more music, less of a chance that yours will be, listened to more. Yeah. And also they're having to pay more creators. So then their bank account gets smaller and smaller, and they have to make money as a business.
SoundCloud, do you get paid for that?
What's up?
Like for SoundCloud, if you have music up on there and people stream it?
Yeah, they just launched a thing called like the monetization part, which is they were always like the free, platform, and they were always in lawsuits because their music was always free. And so people like upload, bootlegs, and like, they almost like went out of business a few times because of that. They were kind of like the Napster, but you know, more legit. Not really downloading it, but just listening to it. So they just introduced monetizing. So yeah, you can make money on SoundCloud. So anyways, let's just jump into it. I know, sorry, it's already been 24 minutes. I know it's supposed to be done in 6 minutes. But I just want to show you what a project looks like real quick. This is like the first, and I'll kind of just play the drop for you guys. This is the first song in my EP. Guess that you forgot the past. I see you happy, you're in life. Something's not clear, and I don't see that you feel hurt or that you miss me. Tell me if you're nice. Oh yeah, call me in the night. So these are all kind of the layers here. Is that? Can you guys hear that all right?
Yeah, we hear it great.
And then here, I'll just jump to the drop. Ah, here it is. So this is what I call like an anti-drop, because you're expecting like a melodic drop. So the song structure for this song is I tried to fake out the audience and kind of just give them like this low-key drop to start them off before I like give them like the big melodic one. So this one plays through about 8 bars. And then it kind of drops back into like this more intro sound and kind of calms down a bit. This is a little more of a calm song than I usually do.
So you've like manipulated all these different bars of the length and all the
yeah. So this is almost like
notes.
a painting, right? So it's almost like a mosaic. So a lot of these, what you'll see is that all these little dots right here, all these more uniformed, is what's called MIDI, which is like a programmable, you know, piano roll, like the piano in the computer, and I can move the notes up and down. And then what I do is put plugins there to manipulate the sound of those notes. So the notes never change. I'm just changing the sounds of the notes that are coming out of the speakers. Wow. And then what these are actual live, you know, MP3s that I've pulled in from different samples. You know, this is her vocal track right here. And then also like harmonies in the background. Here, I'll just play the drop real quick and then this is the real drop. There's a lot more melodic. So yeah, that's like, this is the first track. And there's a whole intro that I built before, which I'm going to have on the EP is just a song called Intro for like 1.5 minutes. And that's more of like it's kind of like Bon Iver, Kristen vibes. Anyways, so real quick to start breaking it down. If you guys have to leave, don't worry. Just bounce out. It's all good. But I'll just start right here with the piano. So this song actually started, where is it? This song started with me. I was just at home and I was just playing. Here it is. So what I did, as you guys can see, is I grouped all the instruments. It's really important to be organized when you're like building a song, because some songs have 100+ tracks in here and it can get really confusing. So it's really good to like organize, label, and then color code. And then you can do what's called grouping, just like any software or editing or anything like that. So this is how the whole song started, is I was just at home and I was playing the piano and this came out. And what's on top, what's going on is these notes on top is what's called triplets. So it's on a different time signature, and that's why it sounds so kind of mesmerizing. And so what I'm doing here, see I'm hitting this S button, that's called a solo button. So I'm just like isolating just this track to play. So these are the chords playing underneath. And then I put these on top. And then from there, I'm like, okay, so the piano sounds really cool. I played that live, and then I immediately ran up to my room and I got on my keyboard and I just inputted it in so I didn't lose that idea. And I was like, and I'll have 100 different projects on my computer that I've never finished that are just like an idea. But it's cool because then you can like open them back up and 6 months later, put new sounds on it and be like, oh, this works. And then you kind of get on a roll. Some songs don't make it past like, 5% of being done. So then I threw this on top. So I had this piano going and I was like, this is really cool. And what you do here is you highlight and you create a loop right here. So you can see like this. And once it gets to here, it'll just reset to the beginning. And then that's when I copy and paste, you know, these notes into a new track. And I wanted to find a new synthesizer sound to go on top of it. So now I added this, and you can hear this. So added that in, and it kind of just fits and creates an atmosphere behind it. Most of music is like you hear that drop sound, you hear that lead synth, but there's like 80 tracks behind that. That's just like an ambient, you know, fill to make everything sound well-rounded and balanced. And then some songs have like 4 sounds to them, and it's like just as cool. So it's really like all over the board. So it started with the piano. And then what's cool about this song is that I actually didn't know this girl who sang. There's a tech company called Splice. I don't know if any of you guys ever heard it. It's a marketplace online. And you can just find vocals. You can find like weird sounds from around the world, drum kits. Like you can do plugins. It's like a marketplace for music creators. And so I found her voice on there, which is just this. And when I downloaded these, they were in like very small little like things. So I had to rearrange them for her to sing an actual, you know, sentence that made sense.
Wait, so it wasn't even this, like what she was originally saying? You just kind of cut them in little pieces and then form something else?
Yeah, so if I pull like, you know, this, and this is what, these are what's called stems. If you ever heard that term, those are just like parts of the song. MP3 parts of the song. I'm trying to find it. Anyways, yeah, so probably there were like 5-second clips, and I just had to like string them together for her to make sense. But there was like 10 of those 5-second clips in the vocal pack, and so you could, you know, rearrange them as much as you wanted.
Is she singing words then?
Yeah.
So you just like take the words out and build a sentence, or?
Yeah, I just rearranged it to make it like a complete sentence.
That's so
She's talking about missing her ex-boyfriend or something and wondering how his life was in a different place in the world. It's cool. The lyrics are cool. It is nice to work with a singer-songwriter because you can really like nail down the idea that you want, you know, and then she or he comes back with like more ideas for the song and the production, and it's just like a good relationship that way. But this one just kind of happened really fast. So from there, so then I had the piano. I found those lyrics, right? And just those lyrics in the piano sound like really cool, like this. So I dropped those, and I immediately, you have weird moments in music where you're immediately like, that is pretty good. Like that, I didn't have to do any work. Those lyrics just fit. So I was just really excited. And that's when I was like, okay, this track is going to be cool. I'm going to keep working on this. There's a point in like music where you're like, this isn't going anywhere. The idea is cool. I'll save it, but I don't think this is going to work out. Or most artists, like for an album, try to make 30 songs, 40 songs, and they're only going to use 8 to 10. So they're like, okay, I can use this on my next album. I'm just going to stop at this 30% mark and move on because I know that the ROI isn't going to be as high. So then I was listening to a bunch of Kygo music, and I was like, oh, he loves using snaps. And my girlfriend was like, I love snap. Like every time we hear a song, she's like, they just like make the vibe so much better. So then I wanted to add snaps to this. So I created what's called a drum rack, right? And that's like a MIDI for drums. So if you can see this in here, these are all different sounds that I've pulled in to essentially like organize them. And what I do then is I create a MIDI, and I can this is the time signature of the song itself. And I'm just drawing in the note. So I'm telling, right here's the snap MP3 that I dragged in, and I'm just telling it to play on each one of these notes, which is to do with the BPM up here, which is 120 beats per minute. And so you can just program and now I have a snap hitting every beat.
Literally a snap. I was wondering what a snap was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I get it.
Yeah, so drums are really cool. I mean, to me, something I left out before is that you have a bunch of different producers, right? Like you have melodic ones that can play music, like, where are we? Here we go. So, you know, Kygo, I know you guys all know who Kygo is. He can actually sit down and play any song he's ever written on the piano. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Did I share that computer audio?
Oh, it works for me.
Yeah.
We can hear
So
it.
yeah, so Kygo's a good example of a producer that And so is like using Zed too. And then there's a lot of musicians who actually can't play music, but that's fine because they can use the computer to figure it out and draw on the notes. But when you say like, DJs aren't musicians, a lot of them aren't. Like, they really just can't play. They just sit down at the computer and they play the computer. So it's a different thing.
What do you think Paris Hilton can do?
Huh?
DJ Paris Hilton. Do you think she can play music?
Oh no, not at all. She has no idea. She has no idea what she's doing, but she's a lot of money doing it, which is cool. Let's see. So here we go. So what's cool is what I call an enabled producer, where you can have the balance of a musical understanding and structure, so it's not too difficult to actually create a song, and then also have the technological ability to jump into the program you're using and recreate that sound you heard in your head using a plugin. And so when you have the two of those, you kind of have this like perfect blend of producing, because you can play the music, but you can also play the computer and play the software, you know. There's a lot of musicians that have no idea how to open this program up. Like, like I don't think John Mayer could really open this up and build a beat or like start from scratch. I mean, he's done it enough to watch his engineers now that he knows, but like he can just shred on the guitar. And he's probably just comfortable playing live more than just like sitting in a, studio and doing this. But there's just like back and forth. There's just different parts of music, and it's all kind of like a balance. But to me, I like playing the computer a bit more. I love playing live music too, but I love being in here and manipulating that live music into something completely new that sounds like an entire band is playing it. So as you listen, and the biggest part to me about like learning how to produce a track is to listening to your favorite producers and breaking down their tracks, and even trying to like reconstruct those in your own way. So I've pulled in plenty of like songs, and I've literally recreated like The Middle by Zed. Like I've tried to rebuild it from the ground up just to see how he thinks, where different sounds come in. Instead of using a hi-hat for the drums, he uses a bunch of clock sounds, which is like a really cool effect I never even thought of. And so he just like has all these little tips and tricks that he does. And then I started to add in, things I've heard from Chainsmoker songs, from Zed songs, from Kygo songs, from other artists, like, even like Coldplay has like a bunch of melodic vocal, not even singing, but like Viva La Vida is like, what? And they just like have a sing-along part of the song. So I've tried to do that in my songs. So you kind of like pull inspiration from all these different sources, and then you try to put them into your song where they fit. So this is like a Kygo inspiration, putting these snaps in here. I mean, without them, it's a little boring. If I just muted this, see how the energy drops off immediately? But when I add them in, you're like, okay, this is building towards something, right? And that's the whole point about a song, is you want it to build to a moment where everybody just has this release, which is why everybody calls it the drop. And not every song has a drop. This one has, like I said, an anti-drop. And then you have, so once you build your drums and you have your melody, which is the most important part, and I was lucky enough to have the vocals up front, then you can start adding in all like the cool effects. And to me, you get to like 90% of the song, and then you have this last 10%, which is like little whooshes and sound effects, and like I have chimes in here. But I really think that last 10% makes this song, one, sound so much more professional and produced and like well-rounded, but like two, those little noises you subconsciously attach to as a listener, and those are I truly believe those are the things that bring you back. So like this sound I've kind of used a lot in this song, just this right here, right? Like you never really pick that out in your head when you're listening to the track, but when you listen to it in the full, like it just fits. How it transitions that whole singing section of the song into this now building beat that you're expecting a drop. And so what you're trying to do to the listener is have them anticipate what you're trying to do. And the best part is you do that, and then you do something completely different, and the listener's like, whoa, like what just happened? Or you do exactly what they predict, and they still love it because the melody is so good and the singing is perfect. And so this is like your chance to like play around with the listener, right? Like a good movie, you never see what's coming. Like Game of Thrones, you never know what's going to happen. The main character dies in the next scene. So that's why it's such a good show, is because like you think that person is invincible, and then bam, gets beheaded. So you can do like cool stuff with music in that realm. So this is like the whole intro right here. And then I started, and then listen to all these sounds come in right here. And then I added in, this was called a vocal chop, where it's like an inaudible type of vocals, but it still provides like an atmosphere in the background. So you can hear all these stuff start to build. When I add in these layers, see I'm just slowly adding in all the different layers right here. And so everything's coming up and building. And then you have like, and so this is exactly where the drums drop in right here. So you can hear these.
The red color ones?
Brown is the drums, yeah, up here. Okay. So I have this like sub riser, which you probably didn't really hear out of your computer headphones, but if you were listening in your car or something, you'd hear those frequencies are much lower. And then these are all like and real quick, I want to show you guys what a plugin. So this is like my bass section here. So it sounds super weird by itself. But when I open this up, this is what's called massive. So this is a plugin, a third-party plugin. And what you're doing here is you're telling the computer, you're creating your own, this is what a synthesizer is. And I'm sure you guys have seen like those big boards in music studios where they're like putting wires into it's kind of like a phone line thing. I don't know if you guys have seen that. And then they have like knobs and buttons and it's just like a giant mess. Somebody just took all that and put it into a computer program. So here you can really manipulate like all the different sounds that's coming out of this one sound here. So this is the bass that I created for this. So if I like pull these up, actually let me grab this. This is a better example. Right here. Here we go. So you guys can hear that sound pretty clearly. So there's different types of oscillators, and this is one of my favorites right here. But what I can do here is like really start to hear that's all changing. And you have all these different sine table and then all these different presets as well. What that like a lot of producers put out. So what's crazy is that you have to like get these notes in and then you loop it and then you kind of just go through this like. And this is where like you go actually insane doing this stuff. So that's what a plugin looks like to build like those sine waves and like all those different sounds. So then to your question, somebody just asked like, are you manipulating, is things changing throughout the song? And I think like the biggest part of producing is what's called automation. So I'll open this up. So these are all the effects that are going on in live time on top of the synthesizers. If you can see all these lines right here, on top of all these synthesizers, you have all these different effects happening that help with the song. So like right here, you can hear how that comes out of nowhere. And then it goes back down. And that's because I put this thing called an auto filter on, which just cuts out the high frequencies. But I'm telling the computer to do it from this point of the song to this point of the song. And that's why it sounds like it's coming from underwater. So that's an example of automation. But some of the best tracks, like every part of the song is automated. So you can see like all these up here. And this is where a lot of the time comes in because these are all like the last 10%, the last details that you kind of put in. But essentially like on the whole, this is like what a song looks like. This is like it's 48 tracks and it's not even that big of a production. But when you get into like film scores, some of them get to a couple hundred tracks at a time, different orchestras. It gets insane. But yeah, this is like, isn't finished yet, but essentially that's what a song looks like in an Ableton project.
That's so cool. How long does that take you to make a song?
It really depends. Like, you know, like some of the big, that's a hard question. This one probably took, probably like collectively 15, 20 hours. So not like crazy, but that's over like, you know, a couple weeks.
Okay, and then I have a harder question probably, which is how do you know when a song is done?
You don't. I mean, how do you know what a painting's done, right? Like, do you painting, or you just step back and say, I'm done?
Yeah, because I imagine, right, especially with all these like little, like the swooshes and stuff, you're like, I could always add more or take
Yeah,
away more, right? At the last 10%, I imagine, is the hardest part to feel like, okay, I'm done.
totally. Something I figured out that's a good thing to do, and probably with everything in life, is I get it to a point where I like it, and then I send it to somebody I trust, like another producer, or actually multiple people. So I send it to 2 groups of people. I send it to friends that don't make music that just I know have a good ear, and like I have a very similar musical taste to me. And they just said, this is great, but check. And what they'll do is send me a reference track and say, like, listen how much deeper the kick drum is on the second drop in this one. You should add another kick drum in just to make it hit harder. And I'll do it, and I'll be like, that literally was what I was looking for. So I have that group of friends that don't really know how to jump into the program and do it. And then I have another group of friends that also produce, and I can even send them this entire project. And, they'll like save it as their own and then add some cool stuff and send it back. And they'll just spend like an hour on it. But they'll add they have their own sample pack libraries of stuff I've never heard. So they'll add like a cool vocal thing or like a different chop, like vocal chop in there, send it back to me. I'm like, dude, that sounds perfect. Or I just won't use it anymore. I liked where I had it. Thanks for helping out. Or they'll just like text me and be like, you should have a bigger rise, or you should change these notes to like triplets instead of make it a little more interesting in this section. So they have like the more technical approach, and then the other friends have. But on the whole, it is up to you. So at some point, you just got to ship it. It's just like, I'm done. And then you move on to the next one. And, that one, I've rarely do I open up a project and just finish a song. I probably do 10 unfinished projects for every project I do finish, I would say. I had 8 to 10. So there's a lot of time just figuring out what you like and like, is this song good enough? This one was super cool. And then there's like songs like this where I just like played it on the piano, that initial part, and I was like, this sounds so just angelic and just cool, and like I just want to listen to this, like this part. Like I just played that on the piano at my house, and I was like, this is so cool. And then I had a different chord come in here, like this chord. It's actually a D, and most of the time it'd go down to an F to complete like the predictable chord. So it had like that chord right there. So it had like an interesting chord structure, and I was just like super stoked. So I knew that this would probably be on it. But I'm also not under a contract with like Warner Brothers Music and have to deliver an album in September. A lot of big DJs and artists, like, they owe the music label an album by the end of whatever month. And so that's a lot of pressure for them but that's also why they have 30 or 40 songs that they're pretty much finished with that they have to choose from. Like Ed Sheeran will literally write, 40, 50 songs for a 10-song album, but he also has hundreds just in his iPhone notes. So like, that song Love Yourself by Bieber? He wrote that, didn't need it for his album, sent it to Bieber. He made a song from it. He's probably written songs for most people that most other artists. So Zed. Sorry, go ahead.
How would you recommend someone to like start this? Like what's step one? Seems a little overwhelming, all these synthesizers and stuff.
No, it is. And I'm still like, I literally don't know anything about a lot of this stuff. I just know enough to like get something down. But I would say like be interested in music. I know it's really hard to learn piano. It's really daunting. It's like learning a new language, right? It's really hard to sit down every day and play. But if you could get a piano in your room, and all I say is play for 15, 20 minutes a day, like follow an app. Like it doesn't have to be hours, right? Just literally try and practice every day and just learn enough. I'd say in 6 months, you'd definitely be able to just be fluent enough to play chords, know where the notes are. That's a big part of it. Like how to map your song to the pianos, like saves so much time. Otherwise you're just sitting there drawing these little MIDI notes like this. I never even showed you guys what MIDI looked like. Sorry. So this is what a chord looks like. So this is what I played on the piano in my house, and then it's translated into the computer so I can manipulate it. So these are all the chords that I was playing. So if you know how to look at your piano to play this and then draw it in, that saves so much time. And then on top of that, I really think like learning this program, learning just like coding with you guys, like learning all the hotkeys, how much time do you save? Knowing where all the buttons are and knowing where all, just hitting Command F and searching for like a whoosh, right? And then I can like get all these little sound effects immediately. Having everything organized so that you don't have to like waste time looking. See, like these are all just noises that I have in my library for like builds, you know.
Who inputs these like atoms of sounds? Where do these atomic bits come from that go into the software?
So the biggest value you have as producer is your sample pack, right? So like all the sounds that you have on your computer, and some guys have like decades of sounds, and their libraries are just crazy. Drum samples, like weird sounds, like they'll travel to India with a recorder and like, you know, it's like Foley sounds from movies, like sound effects. And then, so what's so cool is like, I'll show you guys what this looks like. What's really cool nowadays is they have this like software, this company that we should have invested in because it's making so much money right now. It's called Splice. And so you just go to sounds and you have an account and you have a certain amount of credits, right? And you can just go through here and like, let's say you're trying to make trap music or something. To me, this is where the ethical side of music hits, but yeah, obviously you can't really be that guy, but like a lot of people can just come in here, download these stems are made to all fit together and they can just make a song out of this pack, which isn't really creative.
A lot of people having similar songs, they're all just getting this from this pack.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? Is a lot of people. There's a lot of people that just produce now and just throw stuff together and it sounds cool because somebody else made it and they're just like organizing it. What I think is cool is using this as like a supplement. So I use it as sound effects and like background stuff, and like I would never have, you know, these vocal this weird stuff if it wasn't for like this website, like a wind chime or something like that. But some people like build an entire song just based off of this stuff. They have like all these different. That'd be a really cool EDM song if you step up a bit. So then you like download that and you drag it into your project, put a beat behind it, see how it sounds. You don't like it, delete it, find another one. But this website has been a game changer for like most of the industry because, you know, people like me, I don't have access to. So when you sign a contract like Sony Music, they give you access to their entire libraries. They have millions of sounds, millions of samples, all the networking, and that's what you get with an agency. But this has kind of changed the game because anybody can like download this stuff now. But it's funny because there's like producers on here. There's one called Cashmere. So you see this guy right here. He's probably in 50 to 60% of like EDM songs nowadays. Like you can hear like his sound because everybody uses his stuff. You can there's a Cashmere sample, and like, you know, I'm listening to Zed. Like I actually found, you guys know who Millennium is? He's a really famous DJ. Yeah. I actually was like one of his songs, the intro, like the first sound that he uses. I was scrolling through here and I just found it. And it's like a reverse guitar sample from somebody, and he just downloaded it, and then he made millions of dollars from it. And so I like actually found the sample that he downloaded and used. But everybody thinks that he like wrote it, right? Like he picked up the guitar and like did all the. So I don't know. That's all over the place, but this has been a big help with that stuff. But other than that, I'm still learning. So there's a lot to know.
This was awesome.
Sorry, I went over. I guess
you didn't go over. I knew nothing. I just learned so much.
Do you guys have any other questions? Like anything?
It just looks like a lot, that system you use. What's it called? That software with all the colors.
It's called Ableton, yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate.
How did you decide on your DJ name?
Good question.
I was at Coachella with a bunch of friends, and there was just a private jet. We were like trying to figure out how we're getting into the festival that day. Like, are we going to Uber or should we just walk? And there's a private jet that or a helicopter that takes all the artists backstage. And my friend looks up at it and he's like, "Oh wow, it must be nice." And I was like, "That's a pretty cool phrase." And then we just kept saying that all weekend. And then I realized it has like a duality. Like yeah, it must be nice being a private jet, but it also like if you're gonna be a part of this crew, you have to be a nice person kind of in a way. And so it kind of just hit home, and then I made that logo. It's really cool in a shirt. I was like, this is cool.
That's sweet.
I don't know. No one really knows how it happens. It just does.
How long have you been doing this for, Eric?
The software stuff, or just I've been playing music since I was 10, but the software stuff I've been doing since high school. I was just always messing around with it. And this is also, guys, this is how our podcast gets edited, this program. I'll show you real quick. There's the George Dyson podcast that we just put out.
Nice. Throwing some snaps.
Yeah, I know, right? That's what I'll sometimes just throw in like a beat sample behind it.
You have the one of Pete going billions.
Yes,
billions.
please do that. Please play that.
Oh, I don't know. I don't even know what that beat like should we just like George Dyson just ends his little
find an audience.
Oh, here we go.
So to find an audience.
Anyways, oh wow, I don't know how this is working. But yeah, this is what a podcast looks like, an NFX podcast all edited.
You add more of those other colors.
So you see all these little cuts right here. These are all their likes, and James has quite a bit of likes in here and ums, and so does George, and weird pauses, and then you have to make them all sound smart, and then it all ends up looking like this, and then you know export it, and then you have like all this vocals mastering on top.
Adaptable and robust.
This is another plugin that makes
adaptable and robust. There is no.
So you can do like cool stuff like this.
Adaptable and robust. There is no program. There's no algorithm. So what happened was after World War II, we had all.
So you can do so many things to their voices. And then the biggest thing that I just forgot to talk about or mention is that after you're done producing your track and you think it sounds good, there's a whole nother phase called mixing and mastering that is unbelievable, and I'm still learning about it. But essentially it's balancing all this, what's called stems, and all the parts of the song, like the bass and the synths and the drums, and you're like making sure that it fits in the entire human audible spectrum of hertz, like what I was talking about with the piano. And so the bass has to match all the way up to the very, very high ends, and then you have to edit out like the super high ends so it doesn't hurt your ears if something happens, or like the super low ends, you're just cleaning it up. And then you have to do all this other like work on it to make it sound good, because the hardest part about a song is that you have to make it sound good on the radio in some gas station in Zimbabwe. You have to make it sound good off your iPhone, make it sound good on your MacBook, because Spotify is all streaming one MP3, and so you have to make sure that it all kind of fits into the playback correctly, and you have to make sure it has the right amount of like decibels. So if you look down here at mastering, these are all the different plugins I have on here to make the song sound much better at the end, including this thing called OTT. So if I turn this off, here it gets much quieter, and then when I put it back on, it sounds like more compressed. So if I take it off, and then I take like this EQ off, and see how much quieter? Like this is where it was at, and then I added all these. So anyways, mixing and mastering is like, people get paid a lot of money to sit there and do that stuff, because a lot of producers don't have the time for it. So I'll pay like $500 for some dude to go into a studio and sit there for hours and like make it perfect. And that's if you really want to invest into a song. But big DJs do that for every song, and they spend thousands for these pros to go in and like just make it, balance it essentially. And then they move on to the next song. So that's a whole nother section of song making, So anyways, that's probably it.
Awesome. Hey, Eric, can you play a song that we can dance to?
Oh yeah, yes.
I just want to dance.
I have a new song coming out next week, and I was going to show you.
Jack. Oh yeah.
Kristen, you just guaranteed that this is when I leave. The minute dancing happens, I'm out.
You're a good dancer.
Too awkward.
So awkward. I blame it on being too tall.
There's only so much you can do on Zoom. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like.
All right, so this is the new song that's coming out. I think next week. Yeah, here you go.
In a closet.
It was more like upbeat.
And I found her vocals on Splice too, so I don't have to pay any royalties or anything.
So is this song mastered now too?
What's up?
Is this song mastered now too?
Mastered? Yeah, so I actually mastered this one. I just watched a bunch of like master classes on YouTube and videos, and I was just trying to figure it out myself. This is the first song I've really tried to like mix and master myself, and it sounded pretty good. But this is more of like what's called a deep house song, like a deep house genre
I love
track.
deep.
Yeah, so I've never tried to make one, but I made this one just because I wanted. The EP I'm making is called The Experience Economy, and it kind of reflects that us nowadays, like we extracted goods from, you know, Industrial Revolution. We created goods like Ford Model T, and then, you know, all people wanted to do was consume goods like post World War II. We had houses and white fences and new cars and new TVs. And nowadays it's the experience economy where people my age just want to spend money on trips and like experiencing life, less of like materialistic goods. It's like a cool thing to read up on. But my whole EP is going to be about trying different genres and experiencing like different sounds and all that kind of stuff. So
That's cool that you have
this one's like definitely a party song.
Yeah, this is fun. I like this one.
Yeah, it's like a more high energy, deep house. Like you could like play this at a party, a day party, in a club.
Yeah, Eric, I'm excited. We need to make sure it gets like, you know, all these plays, guys.
What's up?
Because you said, right, like if it gets played, what is it, per like 100?
Oh yeah, can you guys create like a bot that just plays it all day, every day?
Do they catch that stuff? Like,
yeah, they do. Yeah, they're pretty smart.
It's okay, Eric. I genuinely like it. It's not a problem to play it.
Good. I'm glad. So if you guys have any inspiration or hear a melody in your head, or if you just want to like work on if you have a good idea, or if you play piano, whatever it is, let me know. Or if you want to, you know, watch the stuff get made, or yeah, I'm always around. I love this stuff, so I can do this all day. So if you want to learn more, let me know, because I'm here.
You should work all day. That's what you should do all day. I'm
Trust
joking, guys.
Trust me, I do.
I have to make jokes. I love Eric. I love Eric,
do.
and he's so talented, and we're so lucky to have him on our team.
I'm just glad I could do the podcast. Otherwise, we'd have to hire somebody. So yeah. Anyways, there's a free version of this you guys can get for a trial. Like Jack, if you want it, is Jack still here? Did he bounce?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, if you wanted to get like, there's like a free version of this program, and there's also just start on GarageBand. Honestly, GarageBand is everything you need. It's super easy to use. Like it's really. Plus, the cool thing about these programs is they're all the same. Like if you learn one editing program, you can pretty much hop to any. It's like learning a different accent, right? It's like the Southern accent of English versus English. Like it's all saying the same stuff. The buttons might be slightly different places, but all the hotkeys are usually the same. And I would start in GarageBand. I would get an app and maybe just go on Craigslist and buy a piano. Like you can get it for like pretty cheap, or keyboard, or just like a electric.
I have a guitar.
Yeah, or your guitar. You can just play it. You can
mix something up.
That is harder because you can't really like do MIDI music into the
keyboard. Yeah, that's true.
But what you can do is get like these smaller keyboards. Like I have a 49 key keyboard just on my desk at all times in case I ever I just use it, you know, when I'm sitting here, and it's kind of out of the way. So you can just get that and kind of mess around, and then plug it into GarageBand and upload the piano, and then just start playing. But yeah, I would just get an app, learn some piano, learn the chords, learn where the song or the notes are, and then get in GarageBand and just start messing around. It's really just messing around is all this is. No one knows what they're doing when they're making a song. It's just moving little things around, and then it sounds good. So anyways, that's pretty much it.
Thanks for the breakdown. This was awesome.
This is awesome.
Thanks, Eric. So interesting.
Yeah, thanks for coming, guys.
Learned so much.
I know everybody's busy.
Well,
So
thanks, Eric.
I'm glad I can help.
Excited
with
to
some fun
hear
today.
the next week's release thing.